If I had known the woman I rescued on 3rd Mainland Bridge that night had been dead for 6 years, I would have kept driving. But love makes fools of all of us. And Lagos? Lagos makes sure the fooling is loud. This is how I married a woman the police were still looking for, a woman the lagoon claimed, and returned. The rain started like a rumor over Lagos. First a few lazy drops on windshields, then a sudden angry sheet that blurred headlights into streaks of white and red on 3rd Mainland Bridge. Cars slowed, some hazard lights blinking as drivers cursed under their breath and gripped the steering tighter. Tund turned up the wiper speed and leaned forward, squinting. It was past 9 p.m., that dangerous time when the city pretended to be quiet but trouble still moved in shadows. His phone buzzed where it sat in the cup holder. It was his mother on WhatsApp, calling again. He sighed. "Later, mummy," he muttered, ignoring it. He knew the speech already. "You are 35, Tund. Your mates have 2 children already. Are you marrying this your laptop?" He drove on, a little bitter, a little tired. The last relationship had ended 2 years ago with a text that started with "You're a good man," but he hadn't tried seriously since. Work at the logistics startup took everything. And somehow, the city made connections feel transactional, like everything else. The rain thickened, drumming on the roof. In the far lane, a Danfo bus splashed through a puddle, almost kissing the side of his Corolla. He hissed and slowed. Then he saw her. At first it was just a shape, a shadow on the edge of the bridge where no one had any business standing. The flicker of reflective water below caught his eyes, then the pale blur of a dress whipped by the wind. Tund blinked. The figure was standing right by the railing. Too close. One step and she'd be gone. His heart lurched. He hit the hazard lights and pulled over, wheels shaking against the rough edge of the road. Horns erupted behind him, angry drivers swerving. Someone yelled, "Madman. You day craze." But Tund was already out of the car, rain instantly soaking his shirt, phone forgotten on the seat. The air smelled of wet asphalt and salt water from the lagoon. "Hey!" he shouted over the wind. "Sister, what are you doing there?" She didn't turn. Her dress was long and simple, clinging to her in the rain, light blue, the kind that would have looked casual on a sunny day. Her hair was in small twists, pulled into a loose bun that rain had started to ruin. He walked closer, shoes splashing in puddles. Cars flew past, horns blaring in irritation and curiosity. A few slowed, people peering out. "Madam, please come down from there," he said, voice softer now, like he was talking to a child. "It's not that bad. Whatever it is, no reach like this." Slowly, she turned her head. Her eyes were red and swollen. Not just from crying, like she'd been crying for days, years. But her face was striking in a quiet way. Caramel brown skin, a small nose, full lips. Pretty, but not dramatic. The kind of face you'd see at a bus stop and think about later without knowing why. "What do you know about that bad?" she asked in a low voice. The wind carried her words to him, thin but sharp. "I don't," Tund said honestly. "But I know once you jump, there's no edit, no undo. Just," he glanced over the railing at the dark, restless water. "Just final." She blinked, tears mixing with rain. "Leave me," she whispered. "Please." Another car slowed beside them. A man leaned out. "Oga, na mad woman? Makuna come down from Rodo. Mind your business." Tund snapped without looking back. He took a step closer. Now he could see her shoes, flat sandals, worn out, the buckle hanging halfway. Her toes curled around the edge of the concrete. "Look," he said, steadying his voice, "if you want to jump, at least tell someone your name first. You can't just disappear like that. Who will even know you were here?" Her lips trembled. "My name is Amaka," she said. Something tightened in his chest. "Okay, Amaka. I'm Tund. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not leaving you here. If you jump, I'll feel it for the rest of my life. And honestly, I already have enough walla." A tiny, broken laugh slipped from her mouth, like she didn't expect it. "You don't even know me," she said. "True," he said. "But I know that nobody deserves to end like this. Not on this bridge, not in this rain." Cars kept rushing past, some slowing, some staring. But in that moment, the world narrowed to the space between Tund and Amaka. The rail. The drop. The decision. Please, he said softly. Come down. Let's go somewhere. We can talk. You don't have to tell me everything. Just, don't do this. Her fingers tightened on the cold railing. He could see they were shaking. I'm tired, she whispered. I'm so tired. I know, he said. But tired people also deserve jollof rice and small chops and second chances, you get? There's suya somewhere in this city with your name on it. She blinked again, and this time, a clearer tear slipped down. Very slowly, like she was dragging herself out of thick mud, Amaka lifted one leg from the concrete edge and stepped back onto the safer side. Then the other. Her knees buckled, and Tund lunged forward, catching her as she collapsed against him. Her body was cold despite the humid night. It's okay, he murmured, holding her carefully, like she might break. You're okay. You're safe. She let out a sound that was half sob, half sigh, her face buried against his chest. For a second, he swore he felt something strange, a chill that didn't belong to rain or wind, passing through his skin into his bones. But it was gone before he could place it. He guided her to the car, ignoring the curious glances, the muttered comments about Lagos drama. He settled her into the passenger seat, her hands still shaking, then ran around to his side. Inside the car, the world went softer. Wipers swept the rain into neat arcs. Afrobeats hummed faintly from a car a few meters away. He handed her a small pack of tissues from his glove compartment. Thank you, she whispered. You're welcome, he said. Where do you live? Let me drop you. She hesitated. He could see it, a flicker in her eyes, like the question had complicated everything. I don't really have anywhere to go, she said finally. Not anymore. Tund frowned. Family? Friends? Her eyes went distant. Not here, she said. Not anymore. He drummed his fingers on the steering wheel for a second. A sane man would drop her off at the nearest police station, or at least some shelter. But Lagos had taught him that sometimes the official places were where people got lost forever. Okay, he said slowly. There's a spare room in my flat. It's not much, but it's better than this rain. You can sleep, eat, charge your phone. I don't have a phone, she said quickly. He blinked. At all. She shook her head. He studied her. No phone. No address. A woman alone on 3rd Mainland Bridge at night, ready to disappear into the water. Everything in his logical mind screamed, this is not your problem. But another part of him, the part that had pulled over on a dangerous bridge in rain because a stranger might die, refused to leave her. You can stay for a few days, he said, more to himself than to her. Till you figure something out. She looked at him like he was speaking a language she'd almost forgotten. Why are you helping me? She asked. He shrugged. Because someone once helped me when I was about to give up. This is my own tithe. Her lips twitched again at that. Okay, she whispered. I'll stay. Just for a little while. He nodded and pulled back into the traffic, heading towards the mainland. As Lagos blurred outside, billboards, streetlights, flashes of other people's lives, Tund glanced at her from time to time. She stared out the window, eyes tracking nothing in particular, like she was trying to memorize a city she didn't expect to see again. When they reached his block in Yaba, he parked, and they climbed the stairs. His flat was small but neat, 2 bedrooms, a narrow sitting room, a kitchen that always smelled faintly of Indomie and air freshener. He handed her a clean towel and one of his oversized shirts. You can shower, he said, gesturing to the bathroom. There's soap and everything inside. I'll warm something for you. She nodded and disappeared behind the door. Left alone, Tund exhaled deeply, rubbing his face. What have you done? He muttered to himself. He put rice on the stove and fried some eggs, the simple comfort food of tired Lagosians. As he moved around the kitchen, he listened to the water running in the bathroom. Minutes later, she emerged. Her hair was damp now, falling around her face in softer curls. The shirt hung on her frame, sleeves rolled up clumsily. She looked younger. Less like a woman on the edge of a bridge, more like someone trying to remember how to exist. Sit, he said, pointing to a plastic chair. It's not restaurant standard, but it won't kill you. She gave the faintest smile. As they ate, he asked nothing more about the bridge. She offered nothing. They talked about trivial things, the rain, the madness of Lagos traffic, the price of fuel. Her laugh came easier at some point, shy and surprising. Later, as he made up the spare room with fresh sheets, he caught her standing by the window, looking out at the city lights. "Thank you, Tund," she said quietly, "for pulling over." He looked at her, really looked this time. The sadness was still there, like a permanent watermark. But beneath it, something else had surfaced, an odd calm. "Sleep," he said. "Tomorrow will be better. Or at least less terrible." She nodded and slipped into the room. That night, as Tund lay in his own bed staring at the ceiling, he wondered what he had just invited into his life. A stranger. A broken story. A risk. Outside, the city hummed and the lagoon whispered under the bridge they had just left behind. In the next room, the woman who'd almost vanished into that water lay awake with her eyes open, listening to the quiet. For the first time in 6 years, she wasn't in the place where she had died. She was back where the beginning had ended, pulled off the edge by a man who had no idea what he had just rescued, or what had just walked back into the world with him. 3 months later, everyone assumed they'd known each other for years. It started with breakfast. Amaka stayed longer than a few days. The first week, she barely left the flat. She moved like someone learning how to inhabit her own skin again, waking at odd hours, staring at the wall, jumping at sudden loud noises. Tund gave her space. He went to work at his logistics startup, came back late, and found the place a little different each day. At first it was small things, the dishes washed and arranged, his clean shirts folded neatly, the shoes scattered beside the door lined in a straight row. Then one evening he returned to the smell of egusi soup and pounded yam, not the microwave kind, but proper turning with sweat and prayer. He dropped his laptop bag in surprise. "You cooked." She stood by the pot, stirring, her face shy but proud. "You said you were tired of eating bachelor food," she said. "I thought I should help." The food was good. Too good. The kind that made you want to sleep for 12 hours and forget that life was trying to kill you. "This is dangerous," he said, mouth full. "You can't just cook like this. My enemies will say I'm the one holding you hostage." She laughed, really laughed, and for a second, the heaviness around her lifted. By the second week, she had a small routine. She woke early, swept, cooked simple meals, and watched the city from the balcony. Sometimes she hummed songs he didn't know. Sometimes she fell silent mid-sentence, her eyes clouding over with something private and distant. He didn't pry. But the house felt less like an echo chamber with her there. One Friday evening, his friend Cunnel stopped by unannounced, waving a bottle of cheap wine. "Guy, you know day pick call again," Cunnel complained as he kicked off his shoes. "So this is how founder life is, ABI." Then he saw Amaka emerging from the kitchen with a tray of drinks and chin-chin. "Ah." Cunnel froze, grin spreading. "So this is why you've been forming busy. You now have in-house chef and you kept quiet. Oh, wrong now." Tund rolled his eyes. "Behave yourself, a beg. Amaka, this is Cunnel. We went to Unilag together. Cunnel, this is Amaka. She's staying here for now." Cunnel's brows bounced. "For now," he repeated mischievously. "I see." "Shut up," Tund said under his breath. Amaka only smiled politely and went back into the kitchen. When she was out of earshot, Cunnel leaned in. "Oya just me. Where did you find her? Because you can't toast like this on a normal day. Holy Spirit just dropped her in your house." Tund hesitated. He couldn't exactly say, "Oh, I picked her up from 3rd Mainland Bridge while she was about to jump. She needed help," he said simply. "I almost ran into her that night. It didn't feel right to just drive off." Cunnel studied him for a long second, then exhaled. "Nah, you be this," he said. "Too soft for this world. Shut up and open the wine." Days blurred into weeks. The small flat developed new rhythms. 2 mugs instead of 1 in the dish rack, 2 toothbrushes in the bathroom cup. Their conversations grew longer, looping from Nollywood to politics to childhood memories. But whenever Tund gently prodded at her past, "Where is your family? What did you do before?" her answer slid away like oil on water. "They're not here anymore," she would say quietly. "I had a life. It ended. Now I'm here." Sometimes at night, he heard her cry softly in the next room. Not the loud sobs of attention seekers, but the strangled, careful crying of someone who had learned to grieve quietly. Once, just once, he knocked on her door. Amaka. Her voice came, small. I'm okay. Go back to sleep. He stood there for a moment, hand on the doorframe, then walked back to his room. The second month, Amaka suggested they go out. You're always working, she told him as she washed plates. You need to see daylight that is not through a car window. He snorted. Says the one who hasn't left this flat in almost 2 months. She smiled sheepishly. Let's both go then. Start with small things. Eat out. Pretend to be normal. So they did. They went to a small buka in Yaba where the owner shouted greetings at everyone, and Amaka argued with him about the price of peppered meat. They went to a cinema in Suralere where she jumped at every loud explosion on screen but refused to admit she was scared. More than once, people assumed they were a couple. When a waiter in a restaurant said, "Oga, your wife is very pretty." Amaka almost choked on her drink. Tund laughed it off. She's not my wife, She's my household minister. Later, as they walked to the car, he glanced sideways at her. Did that bother you? He asked. She shrugged, looking up at the cloudy sky. Maybe a long time ago it would have, she said. Now it just feels far. What feels far? Being someone's wife. Something in her tone made him quiet. The day everything shifted was a Sunday afternoon. They'd just returned from a small church down the street, her idea. She'd sat quietly all through, eyes closed during worship, her lips moving to words she seemed to know by heart. Back at the flat, as Tund loosened his tie, he said, half joking. You know, if my mother finds out there's a woman living here, she will carry bride price to your village by herself. Amaka smiled faintly. Your mother wants you to marry? More than Nigeria wants fuel subsidy to end. She laughed, then grew thoughtful. And you? You want to? He paused. Maybe, he said. If I find someone I can breathe with. Not just pose for Instagram. Silence stretched. She was looking at him now, eyes searching. Something unspoken hung between them, fragile and glimmering. Tund, she said softly, if I told you I was, not like other women, would you believe me? He chuckled. Every woman says that, Amaka. She didn't laugh. I mean it, she said. There are things about me that are not normal. If you knew everything, you might not have pulled over that night. A small chill ran down his spine, but he pushed it away. I picked you because you were human, he said. Whatever your story is, it's yours. When you're ready, you'll tell me. Her eyes softened, something like sorrow and gratitude mixed together. She didn't tell him that day. Instead, she moved closer, close enough for him to smell the faint scent of soap on her skin. Thank you, she whispered, for giving me a second chance I didn't deserve. He looked at her and decided suddenly that he was tired of overthinking. Maybe you deserve more than you think, he said. Their first kiss was hesitant, then sure. After that, the line between house guest and something more erased itself quietly, like chalk in rain. 3 months after the night on the bridge, Tund took her to a small registry in Ikeja with 2 of his friends and his younger sister as witnesses. His family was suspicious, his mother demanding, "Where are her people? Who is she?" But Tund only said, "She's who I want." Amaka, in a simple cream dress, signed the papers with steady hands. When the registrar said, "You may now kiss your bride," she looked at Tund with an expression he couldn't read. Joy, yes. Relief. And buried under both, something like sorrow. That night, in their small flat now officially shared, she sat beside him on the bed and traced circles on his palm. Tund. Do you believe people can come back? He frowned. Come back from where? From far places, she said. From endings. From things that feel final. He thought of second chances, of small businesses rising after failure, of people rebuilding after heartbreak and loss. Yeah, he said. I think so. People come back all the time. She nodded slowly, eyes glistening. I came back, she whispered. He smiled, kissing her forehead. Yes, you did. He fell asleep with her curled against him, warm and solid. At 3:17 a.m., he woke to cold. Not just the usual Lagos Nipa nonsense with the fan off, but a deep chill that made his teeth almost chatter. The room looked the same, but the air felt thin. He turned to her side of the bed and froze. She was lying there, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. A tear slid slowly from the corner of one eye, but she didn't blink. "Amaka," he whispered. Her lips moved, the words barely audible. "The water is so cold," she murmured. "So dark. I didn't think it would hurt so much." An icy dread crawled up his spine. "Baby," he said, voice shaking. "What are you saying?" Her eyes slowly rolled toward him, focusing with effort. "You pulled me out," she said. "You shouldn't have." Then she blinked, and just like that, the room warmed. Her face changed, like a veil had lifted. "Tund," she said sleepily. "Why are you awake?" He stared. "You were talking in your sleep," he said slowly. "About water." She stiffened, just for a second. "Nightmare," she said quickly, turning away. "Go back to sleep." He lay there in the dark, listening to her breathing, feeling the weight of something he didn't understand pressing on his chest. 2 weeks later, the police came. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Tund was working from home, laptop open on the dining table, when a knock came at the door. "Amaka, can you get that?" he called. He heard her footsteps, the door opening, then a male voice. "Good afternoon. We're looking for Mr. Babatunde Adeyemi." His stomach lurched. Police voice. That tone, official and impersonal. He stood and went to the door. 2 officers stood there, uniforms slightly damp from the heat, badges dull in the hallway light. "Yes," he said, trying to sound casual. "I'm Tund." "Good afternoon, sir," the older one said. "I'm Inspector Bayo from the state CID. This is Sergeant Musa. We're making inquiries about a missing person case. We need to ask you a few questions." Amaka had gone silent beside him. When he glanced, her face was drained of color. "A missing person?" Tund repeated. "Did something happen?" The inspector nodded. "Please, sir. It will only take a few minutes." He stepped back to let them in, heart pounding. In the sitting room, they produced a file. The inspector pulled out a photograph and slid it across the table. Tund looked down, and his breath stopped. The woman in the picture was Amaka. Same eyes. Same nose. Same mouth. Same small scar at the edge of her left eyebrow. But the hair was different, braided to the back. And the clothes were from another time, an older style of blouse and skirt, the photo slightly faded. Underneath, in neat, official writing. Name, Amaka Uma. Status, presumed dead. Date of disappearance, August 12, 2019. Last seen, 3rd Mainland Bridge. The room tilted for a second. "Sir," the inspector said. "Are you okay?" Tund swallowed, forcing air into his lungs. I don't understand," he managed. "This woman she's." He looked at Amaka. She sat rigid on the edge of the chair, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had gone white. "What is this?" he whispered. The inspector sighed. 6 years ago, this woman reportedly jumped from 3rd Mainland Bridge, he said. There were witnesses. Her shoes were found. Her bag. But the body was never recovered. The case remained open because her family believed she might still be alive somewhere. He cleared his throat. 2 days ago, we received a report from someone who claimed they saw a woman who looked exactly like her in Yaba. We're following up on all leads. Tund's skin prickled. His head felt full of cotton. Who reported it? He asked hoarsely. The inspector shook his head. Anonymous. Silence thickened. Sir, the sergeant said gently, do you know this woman? Have you seen anyone who looks like her around this area? Tund's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Next to him, Amaka spoke. No, she said. Her voice was clear, steady. Both officers turned to her. You're sure, madam? The inspector asked. Yes, she said, eyes fixed on the photograph. I don't know her. Tund stared at her like he'd never seen her before. The inspector studied them for a moment, then nodded, sliding the photo back into the file. If you see anyone who looks like her, he said, please contact us. This is the number. He placed a card on the table. Her family is still hoping, even after all this time. They stood to leave. At the door, the inspector paused and glanced back at Amaka. You look familiar, he said thoughtfully, then shook his head. Maybe you just resemble her small. Lagos is like that. When the door closed behind them, the flat felt too small, too quiet. Tund turned slowly to her. Amaka, he said, voice barely a whisper. What's going on? She stood, moving back as if he'd hit her. I told you, she said, her voice suddenly shaking. I told you I'm not like other women. He picked up the photograph, hands trembling, and held it up next to her face. Explain this, he said. Her eyes filled with tears. I can't, she whispered. Not yet. He stared at her, the woman he'd married, the woman he'd pulled off a bridge, now standing in his living room with the same face as a woman who'd supposedly died 6 years ago on the same bridge. You have to, he said hoarsely. Because right now, I don't even know who I married. Thunder rumbled somewhere in the distance, even though the sky outside was painfully clear. Amaka took a deep breath, shoulders shaking. Then maybe, she said quietly, it's time I told you how I really left Third Mainland Bridge the first time. They sat opposite each other in the dim living room. The afternoon sun filtered through thin curtains. The photograph lay between them on the table, like evidence in a trial. Tund leaned forward, elbows on his knees, fingers laced so tightly his knuckles hurt. Talk, he said, more gently than he felt. From the beginning. Amaka's eyes stayed fixed on the picture. When she finally spoke, her voice sounded far away, like it was coming from another room, another time. I was 27, she began. It was 2019. I lived in Ogudu then. Worked as a customer care rep for a telecoms company. You know the type headset, script, good afternoon, my name is Amaka, how may I help you today? A faint, humorless smile touched her lips. I was engaged, she continued, to a man called Chaik. We'd been together 4 years. I thought we were building something. Small flat, big dreams. Wedding date fixed. We were arguing every other day, but I told myself it was stress. Weddings can scatter people's brains. She paused. 2 weeks to the wedding, she said, I found out he'd gotten someone else pregnant. A girl he called just a friend. Tund closed his eyes briefly. He'd heard versions of this story too many times. But the ache in her voice made it new. I confronted him, she said. He turned it around. Said I was too emotional. Too needy. That I should understand. His mother said I should pray. My own mother told me, at your age, do you want to start again? Just marry. Side children are not new. Her hands twisted in her lap. I felt disposable, she whispered. Like my life was not mine. She swallowed. The day I went to Third Mainland Bridge, I didn't plan to jump, she said. Not at first. I just wanted air. I left work early, told them I was sick. Took a bus from Oberland. Got down before the bus reached my stop and started walking. She closed her eyes for a moment, seeing it. The water looked calm, she said. Deceptive. The wind was loud. Cars kept passing, people shouting, hawkers selling gala and pure water like the world was not on fire. I climbed the railing to see better. Her lips trembled. I thought, if I fall now, will anyone really care beyond 1 week of tears and Facebook posts? She whispered. I waited for someone to stop me. Tell me not to. But nobody did. She opened her eyes and looked at Tund. The first time, she said, nobody pulled over. Silence pressed in. I let go, she said simply. The room seemed to shrink around them. The water was not peaceful, she continued, voice cracking. It was angry. Cold. It punched the air out of me. I tried to fight to the surface, but my clothes dragged me down. I thought of my mother. My younger brother. Of Chaik dancing at our wedding with another woman in his heart. I thought, maybe this is better. At least it will be over. Tund's vision blurred for a second. But it wasn't over, she whispered. Dying is not as neat as people think. She looked past him now, eyes far away. Everything went dark, but I didn't disappear, she said. I was stuck. Like there was something tying me here. Anger. Regret. Things unsaid. Every time my mother went to church and prayed, every time my brother looked at my old pictures, every time someone drove past that part of the bridge and whispered, "God forbid," I felt it. Like an echo. I couldn't move on. I couldn't go back. I was just suspended. Tun shivered despite the heat. "How?" he whispered. "How are you here now?" She exhaled shakily. 6 years, she said. For 6 years, I was nowhere and everywhere. I can't explain it in your language. Time didn't work the same. But then one night she pressed her fingers to her chest. Something opened. Like a door. I felt the bridge again. The wet air. The sound of waves hitting concrete. And there I was, on the railing. He remembered the rain that night. The way she'd looked surprised to be alive and miserable. "I thought it was another chance to jump properly," she said. "To finish what I started. To get it right this time. Then you pulled over." Her eyes filled again. "You were not meant to stop," she whispered. "No one stopped the first time. But you did. You called my name back into this side of the world." Tun shook his head slowly. "Are you saying," he struggled to get the words out, "are you saying you died? That I married a ghost?" She flinched at the word. "I don't know what I am," she said hoarsely. "I bleed. I sleep. I get hungry. I cook your food and wash your clothes. I laugh. I feel. I'm here." She touched the table lightly, like proving it to herself. "But I remember drowning, Tund," she whispered. "I remember not existing. And I remember waking up back on that bridge, in the same dress I wore the first time. Like time had looped." He stood abruptly, pacing in the small space. His mind raced, smashing against logic and belief and the bond he now felt with her. "This is madness," he said. "This is not possible. People don't just come back after 6 years. There would be records, explanations, something. Not just, you in my kitchen making egusi." "I didn't ask to come back," she said sharply. "I was pulled. Tied. There was something left undone." "Undone?" he repeated bitterly. "Like what? Revenge? Haunting your ex? Finishing heartbreak business?" She flinched like he'd struck her. "Maybe it was love," she said quietly. "Or maybe I owed this world one honest goodbye. I don't know. I just know I couldn't leave the way I went." He stopped pacing, breathing hard. "And me?" he asked. "What am I in this story? The idiot who took home a stranger from a bridge? The fool who married someone whose first death certificate is probably still in some government file?" "You're the man who stopped," she said simply. "The man who gave me a home when I had nowhere to go. The man she swallowed, care about more than I expected to." The confession hung between them, fragile. "I wanted to tell you," she whispered. "But every time I tried, I remembered the way my mother looked at me in that last fight we had. Like I was a problem to be solved, not a person. I didn't want that look from you too." Silence stretched until it hurt. Outside, the sounds of Lagos drifted in faintly, a generator humming, a baby crying, someone shouting about recharge cards. Finally, Tund spoke. "What do you want now?" he asked. "Why are you here? What is this unfinished business?" She smiled sadly. "If I knew, do you think I'd still be here?" she said. "Every day I wake up and I ask, is this the day I disappear again? Every night I go to sleep wondering if I'll wake up. I don't have answers, Tund. All I know is I wanted to jump, and instead, I ended up peeling yam in your kitchen and arguing with you about movie choices." He laughed once, mirthless. "This is insane," he murmured. "Maybe," she said. "But does it change how you felt when we kissed? When you held me? When you asked me to be your wife?" He looked at her sharply. "No," he said. "It changes what I think, not what I felt." "Then decide," she said. "Do you want to keep seeing me as the girl from the missing person file, or as the woman sitting in front of you?" He sank back into the chair, exhausted. "What about the police?" he asked. "Your family? They still think you're gone. They deserve to know." Tears spilled over now, unchecked. "My mother aged 10 years in 2, she whispered. "My brother stopped celebrating his birthday. I know. I felt their grief like heavy chains. But if I walk in there now and say, "Surprise, I died but I'm back," what do you think will happen? Maybe they'll be happy, he said weakly. Or maybe they'll take me to pastors who'll call me a demon, she replied. To doctors who'll say I'm delusional. To police who'll reopen a file and turn my life into a case study. I don't know if I'm strong enough for that. He rubbed his temples. So what, we just ignore it? He asked. Live like this forever? Hiding. Her gaze steadied. Do you see any forever in my situation? She asked softly. I'm already on borrowed time. The words hit him hard. He looked at her, really looked. The woman who made his empty flat feel like a home. Who laughed at his dry jokes. Who argued with him about politics. Who'd quietly slipped money from her small savings to help his sister pay a school fee. The woman who might vanish any day without warning. What if that's the unfinished business? He said slowly. Not revenge. Not fear. But love. She frowned. I don't understand. What if, he said, choosing each word carefully, you were given one more chance to know what it means to be loved properly? To be chosen. Not as an obligation or compromise. But because someone looked at you and said, even if your story scares me, I choose you anyway. Her breath hitched. Tunned. I don't know what I believe about spirits and second chances, he said. I don't know if one prophet somewhere would say you're a sign or a warning. All I know is, since the night I pulled over on that bridge, my life has felt less hollow. He reached for her hand across the table. Ghost or not, he said quietly, you've been more real to me than most people I've known my whole life. Her fingers trembled as they slid into his. Warm. Solid. What if I disappear? She whispered. Then I'll grieve, he said. Properly, this time. And I'll know you didn't leave alone in the dark. What if my being here puts you in danger? He gave a small, crooked smile. Lagos itself is danger. You think you're the top hazard on my list? Have you seen LastMA officials? She choked on a wet laugh, wiping her cheeks. You're not serious, she said. I'm very serious, he replied. They sat there for a long moment, the air between them thick with fear and tenderness. Finally, Amaka straightened. I want to see my mother, she said. Even if it breaks her. Even if she doesn't believe. I can't keep living like a ghost in my own life. Not fully here, not fully gone. Tund nodded slowly. Okay, he said. We do it on our terms. No crowd. No drama. Just you and her. And my brother, she added softly. He deserves to know I didn't just abandon him. Fine, he said. We find them quietly. Talk to them. If we need to involve the police later, we do. But first, family. She looked at him like he'd hung the moon. You do that for me? She asked. He squeezed her hand. I married you, Amaka, he said. I think the least I can do is help you face your past. The next week blurred into quiet planning. Tund used the number on the inspector's card, spinning a half-truth about wanting to help with the case. After some careful probing, he got an address, a Jeej, a small bungalow behind a row of shops. On the morning they went, the sky was strangely gentle, clouds diffusing the sun into a soft glow. In the taxi, Amaka sat very still, hands clasped tight in her lap, lips moving silently. Cold feet. Tund asked softly. She gave a shaky smile. I've been dead for 6 years, and this is the scariest thing I've done, she murmured. At the compound, children ran around shouting, a woman yelled at someone over the price of fish, a radio played old highlife songs. Life, messy and loud. They stopped in front of a door with peeling blue paint. Amaka stared at it like it might explode. Do you want me to knock? Tund asked. She shook her head. No, she whispered. This is my door. Her hand shook as she lifted it and knocked, 3 soft taps. For a moment, nothing. Then footsteps. The door creaked open. An older woman stood there, wrapper tied tightly around her waist, gray threaded through her hair. Her eyes were tired but sharp. Yes, who are you? She began, then froze. Her hand flew to her mouth. The bowl she was holding slipped from her fingers and clattered to the floor, water splashing their feet. Jesus, she breathed. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Amaka's lips wobbled. Mama, she whispered. The woman swayed, gripping the doorframe. Tears flooded her eyes, spilling down her cheeks in messy lines. Amaka, she gasped. Amaka. She reached out with shaking hands, touching her daughter's face, her arms, her shoulders, as if to prove she wasn't touching smoke. You died, her mother sobbed. They said. You jumped. I buried you in my heart. Amaka broke then, collapsing into her mother's arms. I'm sorry, she cried. I'm so sorry. I was selfish. I was stupid. I wanted to leave the pain, not thinking of what it would do to you. Tun stepped back, throat tight, giving them space. Someone else rushed out of the house, a young man in his 20s. He stopped dead when he saw them. Jesus, he whispered. No way. Chitty, Amaka sobbed, reaching out. It's me. Her brother grabbed her, hugging her so tightly she wheezed. Where have you been? He cried. Do you know what you did to us? Do you know how many nights I almost followed you? She held his face, weeping. I know, she choked. That's why I came back. I couldn't leave like that. I couldn't. Her voice broke. They cried together in the doorway, 3 people holding the shape of a daughter, a sister, a ghost made flesh. Later inside, with the door closed and the radio turned off, Tun sat quietly on a plastic chair, watching as Amaka tried to explain a thing that had no language. Her mother listened with a mixture of horror and relief, clutching a Bible so tightly the pages crumpled. Her brother paced, occasionally asking sharp questions. So you're saying you died but you didn't die? He asked. I'm saying I left you in the worst way possible, Amaka replied. And somehow, I was given a second chance to say I'm sorry. To try to live better, if only for a short while. Short while, her mother repeated, panic in her eyes. No, no, no. You're staying. We'll go to church. We'll pray. We'll do deliverance. Whatever this is, we'll fix it. Amaka smiled sadly. Mama, she said gently. Maybe this is not something to fix. Maybe it's something to honor. She gestured to Tund. This is my husband, she said. The man who found me, who gave me a home. I don't know how much time I have. But however long it is, I want to spend it living with intention. Not running from fear. Her mother's gaze moved to Tund, scrutinizing him. You married my dead daughter, she said bluntly. Tund coughed. It wasn't on the invitation card like that, Ma, he said weakly. To his surprise, Chitty snorted, a shaky laugh. The tension in the room cracked. Do you love her? Her mother asked. Tund met her eyes. Yes, Ma, he said simply. Enough to be scared out of my mind and still stay. Silence. Then the older woman sighed, a sound like air leaving a tire. This life, she muttered. If somebody wrote it in film, we would say it's too much. She wiped her eyes and stood. Okay, she said. We don't understand. But God that allowed this knows something we don't. For now, you are here. That is what matters. She reached across and took her daughter's hand, then Tun's, then her son's, forming a small trembling circle. Let's start from there, she whispered. Days turned to weeks. The police were informed in carefully selected pieces of truth, enough to close a file without starting a circus. The official story became, she disappeared for years, dealing with mental health issues, and has now returned. The real story stayed in the small circle of people who had watched her die in their hearts, and now had to learn how to love her with the knowledge that she might not be here forever. In Yaba, life settled into a fragile new normal. Amaka started a small catering business from the house, her food carrying flavors people couldn't explain but came back for. She volunteered once a week at a support group for people struggling with depression, sitting quietly with those who stood on metaphorical bridges she knew too well. Sometimes, when Tund woke at night, he'd still find her staring at the ceiling, fingers twisted in the bedsheet. Water, he'd whisper. Memories, she'd reply. He'd pull her close, grounding her in warmth and heartbeat. One evening, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the busy street, watching Danfoes weave through traffic, she leaned her head on his shoulder. I think I know now, she said. Know what? He asked. Why I came back, she replied. Not to rewrite the past. Not to punish anybody. Just to finish feeling what it means to be alive. Properly. To love without fear. To say sorry with my chest. To show someone there is always another way off the bridge that doesn't end in water. He turned to look at her. And when the time comes, he began. She smiled, soft and sad and luminous. When the time comes, she said, I'll go knowing I didn't leave you the way I left them the first time. I won't disappear into rumors and guesses. We'll say goodbye properly. No secrets. He swallowed past the lump in his throat. You talk like someone who already has a departure ticket, he said. Don't we all? She countered. He huffed a small laugh despite himself. You're too deep, he muttered. You married me like that, she replied. They stood there until the sky darkened, the city lighting up in chaotic pockets. Later that night, as they lay in bed, she turned to him and said, almost casually, If I don't wake up one day, don't go back to that bridge looking for me. Don't say that, he said sharply. I have to, she insisted gently. Promise me. No standing by the railing, no staring at the water. No asking it questions it can't answer. Live. Eat. Laugh. Be stubborn. Help someone else who thinks the bridge is their only exit. He stared at her, eyes burning. Fine, he said. On one condition. What? You don't leave without one last kiss, he said. I don't care whether you're ghost, spirit, or stubborn village girl. I want my goodbye. She smiled, tears glistening. Greedy man, she whispered. She kissed him then, slow and lingering, like a promise written in warmth instead of ink. Some stories don't end with a clear full stop. They taper into a question mark, a dot, a quiet continuation. The Wife from Third Mainland Bridge became one of those whispered stories in corners of Lagos nobody wrote down but everybody felt. The tale of a woman who came back not to haunt, but to heal, of a man who pulled over when everyone else drove past, of a love that bloomed in the strangest gap between life and death. And somewhere, on certain nights when the wind rose over the lagoon and the bridge lights flickered, drivers claimed they saw a woman standing by the railing. But this time, she wasn't crying. She was just watching the city, eyes soft, as if making sure that, for someone out there, the story would end differently.